If you enjoy our content, please subscribe so you never miss an update. Deep beneath the earth, hidden from the light of day, lies the treacherous Valley of Heartbreak, a place where deeply buried secrets wait in the shadows, and tales of survival and ultimate family betrayal echo through the ancient stone.
Imagine, for a moment, falling 100 feet into the freezing, pitch-black darkness. A subterranean pit, filled with heavily armored crocodiles waiting in the deep water below. It is the darkest of nightmares, an inescapable abyss where the young heroes Yang Guo and Gongsun Lu find themselves after a trapdoor is pulled by Lu's own father.
The Crocodile Pit. Survival in the dark.
The sheer force of the fall drove them deep into the icy water. Yang Guo did not panic. He simply held his breath, calling upon his internal energy to weather the crushing plunge. Swimming desperately toward an unseen rocky shore, he felt the water shift as the first beast approached. With perfect calm, he delivered a crushing kick directly to its jaw, sending the heavy creature tumbling away. And when the final crocodile lunged from the black waters, he caught its terrifying jaws bare-handed, channeling a surge of pure internal power to rip them apart in the dark.
In the quiet aftermath, they sought refuge in what little they carried. Hidden within Yang Guo's robes was a small survival cache slipped to him earlier by the eccentric Zhou Botung. Inside lay a dagger, sharp enough to cut through iron like mud, and half a Lingji mushroom to slowly warm their freezing blood. But the most precious item of all was a simple jade bottle. It held the final, solitary pill of the passion flower antidote. Just one pill, while both he and his beloved Xiaolong Nu carried the fatal poison in their veins.
The underworld secret, a ghost in the tunnel.
The freezing, pitch-black tunnel amplified every sound. Suddenly, a noise echoed through the cavern, a terrifying blend of sobbing and laughter, whispering through the dark. "I am a ghost." They followed the haunting noise to a naturally lit cave, but what they found was no spirit. It was a strange, bald, half-naked old woman. She had survived for years on nothing but fallen dates, yet she could spit the remaining pits with such lethal, blinding force that she disarmed Yang Gu before he could even blink. The tension hung thick in the cold air, until the crippled woman's eyes settled on Gongsun Lu. She asked in a raspy whisper for the girl's birth date and demanded to see the hidden mark on her waist. Upon seeing it, the terrifying cavern dweller broke into bitter weeping. She spoke softly, calling her a precious darling. This broken ghost of the caves was Lu's mother, a woman everyone believed had been dead for over a decade.
Her name was Qiu Qianchi, the Iron Palm Lotus. Once a fierce master of the mighty Iron Palm sect, her physical form had been brutally compromised. Her tendons had been slashed, leaving her arms and legs powerless. Yet, she refused to be helpless. Through sheer, quiet will, she mastered a way to weaponize her breath, turning a tiny date pit into a lethal projectile. She was a formidable spirit, unbroken despite her shattered body.
A mother's vengeful past, the ultimate betrayal.
Above ground, the Valley Master Gongsun Zi had spun a delicate, mournful lie. He told his daughter and his followers that his beloved wife had tragically succumbed to a sudden illness. But deep below the earth, the brutal reality festered in the damp cold. Her own husband had sliced her tendons and cast her into this inescapable underworld to rot in the dark.
The seeds of this tragedy were planted in a toxic history. It was Qiu who had patiently taught Gongsun his advanced martial arts. Yet he grew restless, plotting to elope with a gentle maid named Rower. Discovering this betrayal, Qiu's vengeance was swift and cruel. She cast the lovers into a bed of lethal passion flowers, offering them a single antidote pill as a grim test. To save his own life, Gongsun Ji plunged a blade into Rower's heart, choosing his own survival over his love.
The descent into darkness was shockingly rapid. After the betrayal in the flowers and Rower's tragic death, Qiu Qianchi believed she had secured her husband's loyalty through fear. She drank heavily that night in bitter celebration. But as she lay incapacitated, Gongsun struck from the shadows. Severing her tendons, he dropped her into the abyss. That single night of violence condemned her to a 12-year nightmare, kept alive at the bottom of a pit only by the dates falling from a solitary tree.
The Great Escape, Ascent from the Underworld.
Escaping this sunless tomb required an impossible feat. Using his exquisite lightweight martial arts, Yang Guo began to scale the smooth, inverted rock wall,
gracefully defying gravity. Before the ascent, they had painstakingly woven a massive rope from the shredded bark of the date tree. Reaching the precipice, he securely wedged a sturdy branch across the opening, creating an anchor strong enough to slowly pull the crippled mother and her terrified daughter up from the eternal dark.
But as they breached the surface, the Valley Master's chief disciple, Fan Ewing, launched a fierce attack. Tottering on the brink of the abyss, Qiu Qianchi found a moment of brilliant cunning. Completely lacking physical strength, she dug a sharp stone into his spine and whispered a bluff using her husband's secret pressure point terminology. She told him his Ling Tai acupoint was compromised and all his meridians destroyed. Terrified by her intimate knowledge, the disciples surrendered, forced to haul them to the safety of the stone floor.
Crashing the wedding. The dead return.
Imagine the Water Daffodil Estate, awash in the red glow of wedding lanterns and crowded with martial arts masters. Gongsun Zi stood majestic in his pristine wedding robes, beside a deeply reluctant Xiaolongnu, adorned in a delicate bridal crown. Without warning, the heavy doors burst wide. Qiu Qianchi entered, carried upon her daughter's back. She wore a macabre mask of human skin and a cloak of woven grass, posing as her own legendary brother. A suffocating silence fell over the great hall.
In the swirling chaos of the room, Yang Guo had only one thought: the single remaining antidote pill. Without a moment's hesitation, he rushed to Xiaolongnu's side and gently pressed the pill to her lips. In that quiet act of devotion, he surrendered his own life, fully accepting that the poison in his blood would soon claim him, simply so she could live.
The officiant's voice trembled as he called for the bride and groom to bow. From beneath her ghastly disguise, Qiu Qianchi spoke. "Newcomers bow to heaven and earth," she said. "But what about the old?" She projected these words with an internal energy so immense, cultivated through years of deep meditation in the dark, that the invisible sonic waves swept through the hall, extinguishing dozens of wedding candles in a single breath.
Suspicion flickered in Gongsun Ji's cold eyes. Testing this strange guest, he produced a fabricated letter, reading aloud that Qiu's beloved older brother had been slain. The lie struck deep. The facade shattered as Qiu Qianchi cried out, her voice breaking into a woman's mournful wail. Overwhelmed by sudden raw grief, she tore the horrifying mask from her face, exposing her scarred, true visage to her husband for the first time in 12 years. The reunion erupted into venomous hostility before the stunned guests. Gongsun Ji wildly defended himself, shouting that his wife was a vicious monster who had forced his hand to murder the gentle ruler. But beside him, his daughter Lue stepped forward, her voice ringing with fierce defiance. She pointed to the cruel truth that her father had locked her mother in a subterranean nightmare for over a decade, weaving a tapestry of lies about her death. Driven mad by the public unearthing of his darkest sins and enraged by his own child's rebellion, the Valley Master's pristine composure snapped. With ruthless, blinding force, he lashed out, viciously kicking Lue. She flew backward, crashing heavily into her crippled mother. The sheer violence of the impact left both women unconscious on the cold stones of the wedding hall. From the shadows of the room, Yang Guo pulled Xiaolongnu away from the horrific display of broken bloodlines and mutual cruelty. He looked upon the tragic scene, a dark mirror of survival and betrayal, and murmured softly, "There are few good people in this world, and many wicked ones." It was a quiet, cynical truth in a place where love was a weapon and family ties were severed by the blade.
As the candles smoked and the dust settled over the unconscious bodies, an ominous quiet reclaimed the Valley of Heartbreak. With a crippled mother out for blood, a father's darkest secrets laid bare, and a hero whose days are numbered by an incurable poison, who in the end will survive the looming tempest?